to another episode of Inside Eastern Utah. I'm your host, Scotty Draper, and we are here today with John Jones. He is a hopeful for Carbon County Commission. He has thrown his name into the hat this year, and it's kind of a big race, but you've decided to put your name in. You served in the past, and now you're taking another go at it. So thank you for joining us.
Well, I'm excited to be here. You know, I'm really running because the financial problems that the county's had over the past couple of years, I've seen money management problems there. But in the past, I've been your commissioner. I was commissioner for 6.5 years. During that time, I carried many hats. I was president of the Utah Association of Counties, so I worked with counties across the state on their problems. Yes. I was a member of the executive committee for the Utah Association of Counties, and we did the same thing as part of the executive committee as I worked through the ladder to help other counties be successful here in the state of Utah. I chaired the Western County Alliance, so that was counties across the western United States. There's about, states across the western United States. There's about 14 western states that have 95% of the federal land that rests within their border. So I chaired an organization that worked on public land issues that come in those states. I was a voting member for the Public Land Steering Committee for the National Association of Counties, where we worked on resolutions that went to Congress to help guide Congress in a direction that wouldn't negatively affect our economy here in the West. Those are just a few of the things I did. I got asked to, I was chosen out of the whole state of county commissioners to go to Washington, D.C. and testify against Red Rock Wilderness when they tried to lock up our border here in Carbon County. It was me and Lieutenant Governor Bell that got to go back and testify on that, and I'm proud of that. I had an awesome opportunity to attend a White House conference, and while I was there, I spoke on the need for conservation in our forest lands. You know, it was October the 13th of 1999 that President Clinton signed an executive memorandum for roadless forests. And today, because we can't get in and manage those forest lands, they're dying, and it's negatively affecting our carbon footprint and our water sources in the West. So we need to make some changes there. And I think that was one of the highlights of my career. So. Yeah,
a lot of accomplishments under your belt in those past years, and now you're looking to add some more to it. So what are some specific things you're looking to accomplish if you are elected?
Well, I think the first thing that needs to be done is we need to determine exactly how much money we have. You know, I hear that there's this deficit and that deficit, but each year as our financials come back in, we close the gates on our accounts at about $20 million, just a little over $20 million. And so if we continue to have $20 million in the bank, how can we have a deficit, of $6 million, as was mentioned in December of last year when they raised our taxes 9.29%. So I look at those things and go, wow, what's happening here? And I see figures that don't match up in the financials, like in 2016.
Walk us through some of those.
If you look at 2016, you couldn't tell me how much money was in the municipal service fund. Is there $2,393 in there? On page 13, that's what it says. And on page 65, it says there's $1,822,000. So how much is in there, and which one are we deducting from? I think that would cause a lot of misunderstanding when we're looking at the budget and trying to run our finances. We seen Class B road funds deposited into a Class B road account that we started when I was a commissioner. We'd put $4 million in that account, and they started deducting from it the first year that I was out of office. And the next year they put $1,369,000 in there, and that was the Class B road funds, I believe. And if they'd done the same thing in 2017, they would have had $5.9 million in there. So when they were funding the road department during that time, they were taking it out of the municipal service fund, as close as I can tell. You can see the municipal service fund dropping from $3.2 million in 2015 to $1.8 million in 2016. Does that mean it could be $400,000 in 2017 when they were asking for the 707% raise in the municipal service fund? But really, the biggest problem with those two funds were they were depositing our Class B road funds into the savings account rather than running the road department out of them. We used to deposit the Class B road funds in that account, but we ran the road department off royalty money, and as we've seen royalty money slip in 2015, the right thing to do would have been to utilize that money to run the road department if needed. But if you were to look at the figures in 2014 on page 60 and 2015 on page 66, you'd see that they deducted a little over $700,000 out of the Class B road funds. But on those same pages, if you look at the municipal service fund, you'll see it come up almost that same amount of money. So they really didn't need to deduct that money out of our savings account. And that savings account was put there kind of like a rainy day fund. So when we had problems in the future, we'd be able to step back and pick that up and be okay without raising taxes.
So if you're elected, obviously a close look at finances is going to be the top priority.
I think it's important that we go back and look at each one of the projects in Carbon County and see where they were billed to and how they were funded, and follow that funding through to make sure that that money went back where it was supposed to. In 2014, when I left office, there was $9 million in an unrestricted fund. It was a Ferrari account. You could just pay the bills out of it, and then whenever the money come back in from the Community Impact Board, grant loans and things like that, or roads and rec, you'd pay that money back. But we've seen that slip $3 million in 2015. So if what happens there is that money wasn't put back where it was supposed to go. It should have went back into that unrestricted money. Does that make sense?
Yes. So obviously one of the most critical issues you're seeing that the county is facing is these budgetary concerns. Can you speak to that and kind of how we can pull out of that and hopefully resolve that?
Well, I think that we're already pulling out. We've seen an uptick in royalty money this past year. We're up around $4 million. So I think you're seeing some growth there in our gas fields and things like that. Coal's definitely going to be down. I mean, we're going to see that dissipate, but we shouldn't put all of our eggs in that basket. Whenever I was commissioner before, we started looking at ways to hub off of local economies that surround us, like with the Dial brothers when they come in and built the oil loadout. We were partners there. We were there with them on the ground, you know, opening doors for them and doing things. I remember taking them to UNT County and introducing them to people that was working in the gas fields over there to get them guys involved here in our business. And now we've got those truckers coming in and loading oil on our tracks right here in Carbon County. And that's a huge tax income for us. So it's those kinds of things that'll make a difference in the future. If you want to talk about economics, though, I truly believe that it's the locals that'll bring the biggest bang for our buck. You know, it's easier to get a business to expand than it is to get one to move in here.
Yeah.
And so building a relationship with the chamber and local business people and making sure that they know that we want to be a partner as they move forward and expand their business so that we can have economic growth.
Of course. And how do you think your experience in the past as part of the commission and as part of the community will help you in this future goal if you're commissioner?
Well, for one thing, understanding the finances and taxation and things like that will definitely be an asset. Being able to find people tax breaks so that they'll invest in our community is the number one way to get somebody to open their wallet and move forward. But you know, while I was a commissioner, we did over $30 million worth of projects. We cut the deficit $1,750,000, and we cut the budget $2.5 million a year. That shows you that I was involved with a team that had enough experience to move the community forward without asking for more taxes. So that's how I believe that I would be the man for that job.
So you believe there's a way to move forward in this community without, you know, raising taxes and creating a burden on the residents here?
I think that we definitely have a deficit. You can see a loss in the royalty money. I think that there's ways to curb that deficit and change how we do business to save money at the county level. And I'm not talking about attacking our employees. That's just low-hanging fruit. I'm talking about keeping the services as necessary to keep Carbon County whole and moving forward. So I would definitely look at our services and the things that we have going on long before I'd look at taxation.
Certainly, and we've spoke about the energy industry a couple times so far. Do you think there's anything additional that can be done to invigorate that industry, or is diversification going to be the key moving forward? I
think that there's still some areas that haven't been drilled in Carbon County. We have a couple of coal mines that could actually open here. There's some coal reserves up by Schofield, and all you can do is have the door open when those folks are ready to move forward and help them do that. I really think diversification is going to be the answer to the future in Carbon County. We need to get off the roller coaster ride. We're becoming a neighborhood community for Provo and Salt Lake. Every day, it seems like I run into somebody who's working in Salt Lake and living here. Can you imagine driving back and forth? But I think you're going to see more and more of that. And I think that people with good paying jobs would look at our area because not wanting to raise your kid in the big city life. But I don't know that that should be a goal for Carbon County to become. I think we should be self-sufficient. I think we should continue to try to work with things like coal to liquids and the oil loadout, water issues and stuff like that. We can overcome those things. You know, when we were looking at coal to liquids, people were concerned about how we were going to get the water. And we were looking at the water that runs out of the backside of PRWID, the sewer water. About 1.5 million gallons a day runs out of that sewer treatment plant. And if that could have been arranged to where we could have utilized that, I think it would have helped PRWID's budget, put jobs on the ground, and help Carbon County sustain a very vibrant future.
Certainly. Well, in the past, as you served as a commissioner, I'm sure it was not uncommon for people to come to you with their concerns, their questions, their worries. How did you take the community's input to kind of fuel your work as a commission, and how do you see that playing into it if you're elected again?
Well, one of the things that I did, as I ran for office and I was a brand new commissioner, we were losing the Bill Barrett project on top of the 9 Mile Tavaputs area. It was pretty much, the commission thought it was gone. And I said, I believe that through negotiation, we can save that project. And it took 13 months. It took about 11 months of negotiation. It took a couple of months to actually get it on the ground. But, and I paid for some of those trips to Washington. The commission didn't think it was a good investment, you know, because things was already south. But we got a thing called a 106 started, and that was a negotiation between the parties involved, like 9 Mile Coalition and those guys that really have a personal feeling in that canyon. It's theirs. And by working with those guys in negotiation, we got the Tavaputs project. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when it first opened up, it paid $4.5 million a year to this county. It paid $3 million a year in royalty money and $1.5 million in property taxes. You know that last year, I checked because I was questioned about the 9 Mile Road, but last year they paid $1 million in property taxes and $600,000 in royalty money. So it's still paying back even after all these years. But that's the process that needs to take place. We need to partner with the people involved and have public input and make sure that we're moving forward in a direction that the public wants.
Certainly. Now, before we let you go, is there anything else you would like our viewers to know about your platform, about some of your ideas, anything we haven't touched on? Well,
I just think that right now especially, if we're going to have a commissioner, it needs to be full-time, whether it's me or somebody else. I wouldn't elect somebody that was going to be a part-time commissioner. We've kind of seen where that's gotten us. We need people that are going to be there 5 and 6 days a week to make sure that our county's successful. If I'm elected, that's exactly where I'll be. You'll see me working on projects just like you did before. Great things can happen if you've got people working full-time. Lots of things are passed up if you just have a few minutes in a week to take care of the problems.
It is a big job.
It is.
It's a very big job, and there's a lot to it, so.
Thank you so much for having me here
today. Yes, we appreciate your time, and thank you for the insight, and we wish you the best of luck on your campaign and all that's going to come in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, stay tuned. We're going to be back in a few minutes on Inside Eastern Utah.